Hi, Emma here from the NOIC Godcast, where we offer wacky wisdom weekly from God's Word. On today's episode, we are going to be talking about working and the waiting. Stay tuned. So I'm going to start off with a verse. It's probably a very familiar verse. I grew up hearing it my entire life. It's my mom's favorite. Isaiah 40:31. But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not faint. So, question, is waiting hard?
Just a bit. Yeah.
So in this fast-paced world, we are also used to getting everything we want right here, right now, because every single thing is at our fingertips. We can literally just Google something and know anything. And get a wrong answer. You're going with that. Google, yeah, I mean, in the moment, you're going to think that Google's right, but it's whatever. So when God tells us to wait, it isn't always easy. And I actually recently went through the season myself. Since getting married and moving, I had to find myself, my purpose again, because by going to a new church and finding all these different things, I already had what I felt like God was calling me to do. And now here I am in the midst of everything thinking, okay, God, where do you want me? And for many months, I got so impatient and just so frustrated because I'm like, God, I feel like I'm not doing anything at all. And all I wanted to do was what he had for me. I didn't understand, and the worst part was, and I'm really bad about doing this anyways, is I felt like every single thing that I was doing, even the small things, that they just weren't important, that I was doing nothing. And it's so easy to get in that mind state of either what you're doing isn't important or that you don't need to do anything because you don't know what God wants you to do. Yeah. And both of those things are just as harmful as the other. So today, I kind of want to focus on both of those things, trying to figure out the middle ground between figuring out what God wants you to do and working with him, even when you don't know exactly what he wants you to do. So the saying of what I'm doing isn't important. Do not say that, but I'm saying that because I say that all day, every day, all the time. And here's the thing. Whether you're cleaning the church, mowing the lawn, singing, preaching, teaching, every single thing we do is so important, like every single thing. And we all have a purpose and we're all part of the body. And so we can't continue to sell ourselves short of the blessing that God has given us, because that we always say that we're taking a blessing from somebody. And that's the truth. We're not only just taking that blessing from somebody else, we're taking that blessing from us.
Yeah. So I think Jesus, is a good example here. So here's the disciples, right? They think that Jesus is going to build this earthly kingdom, and they're going to all be they want to sit on his either side of his throne, and they want to be made a big deal. They're arguing over who's the greatest. And Jesus says the servant is not greater than his master. And he says that in the context of basically serving the disciples himself. Like Jesus became a servant. He humbled himself and became a servant. He washed their feet. We find at one point, I like to throw this in my grandpa's face all the time, because he always he's old school. He likes to say that cooking is for the women. I love cooking, and I'm not a woman. And so I always told him, Jesus cooked right at the shore after his resurrection. And so Jesus cooked, he washed their feet, he served food, he just on and on. Jesus did all these menial tasks, and it wasn't beneath him, but it was important. And I think that that's where we all need to be, is realizing that all things can be a God thing, no matter their size. But this is the point that Jesus makes to the disciples. Though basically, if you're not willing to do the small things, I'll never give you great things. Yeah. And so there's no skipping that step. Right? There's no going straight for the big things. You have to do the small things in order to get bigger things. And so I guess one of the things we've learned around here is that God blesses faithfulness, right? But the only way to get faithfulness, you realize there is no microwave version of faithfulness. Yeah. There's no quick fix to get to be faithful. Faithfulness is the long game. It's continuing to do the same thing that you're supposed to do as long as it takes. That's faithfulness. And so until you get that through that long, sometimes dry, sometimes menial continuation of doing what seems unimportant, until you're willing to do that, he's not actually going to give you anything of value in his kingdom to do. Yeah. And I think we see that all around us in Christianity today. Everybody wants those big things to do for God, but no one's willing to be faithful in the process to get there.
Well, because part of the problem is when you think that those small things aren't important,
right,
and you don't do them, somebody else is going to do them. And it is important.
Yeah.
Like we just, like even starting the verse calendar, like if I didn't do it, somebody else would do it. But then that would take the blessing away from me. And the amazing part is even when you do those small things, God shows it shows that he's there in the midst of that. Because how many people, when I was thinking, this is like, I'm helping with other things, but this is the biggest thing that I'm doing at this current moment. Like when I was going through that, and how many people would walk up to me and say, hey, this blessed me this day. And that's what we need to keep our eyes focused on, that God is using whatever the waiting is to push us to something greater. And it's like we've talked about many times on here that we need to keep the first things first. And we need to realize that we need to put our all into every single thing that we do, no matter what it is, even if it is mowing the lawn. And so that is a real struggle for me, but also thinking that you don't need to work because God hasn't called you to do something. And that's a hard thing, because you hear all the time. You get asked, or like you talk to other people, and it's, oh, I'm just waiting to hear what God has to say, what God has called me to do. But the problem is, it's kind of like the saying that if you skip 1 week of church, it's easy to skip another week to church, and then you're not going for a month, and then it's just holidays. If you aren't working in the church, it's easy to sit in a pew every single Sunday and continue to say, God hasn't shown me yet. But the thing too is, God doesn't always come down from heaven and hand you this book and say, this is what I have for you. Yeah.
So we've been learning this on Wednesday nights here at the church. Jesus makes it clear that God is always at work around us, always. And so God doesn't take hiatuses. Hiatuses? Is that a hiatus? I don't know. Hiatuses? That sounds weird. Is that a right word? Is that a word? Someone tell us if that's right. Google doesn't know. That's the Macarena. Okay, I digress. God doesn't take a break. He doesn't take that week off. Like, God is always at work around us. I'm kind of convinced that he's always inviting us to join him in the work. We're just so focused on what we want to do, or we want the stars to align, that we're actually not even paying attention to his invitation. Like, I'm just convinced of that. I was talking with someone through LifeWise corporate. I don't even remember who I was talking to. But they were making the comment of, like, it's amazing the people who have come together to do LifeWise, like on a national scale. And I said something along the lines of, it's like God is bringing in his best. Like, he's just like bringing together this like A team to do this. And what I get at that, like the old saying goes, like, if you want something done, ask a busy person, because that's the people who are willing to do things, right? It's kind of that way with God. Like, if we're sitting on our thumbs, twiddling, just waiting for the stars to align, is it twiddle? It feels funny. Do as I say, not as I do. Don't actually do what I say either. Don't do that either. Why do they let me have a microphone? That's really the question here. That's really the only question here. If we're sitting and waiting for God to just like strike with lightning, align the stars to give us this grand theatrical invitation, like, that's never going to happen. Like, we will literally waste a lifetime and never join God in the work. But if we're always diligently seeking him first and always seeing what he's doing and then accepting those small, still voice invitations to join him in what he's doing, we will always have work to do for his kingdom. I'm convinced of that.
Yeah. Well, and I think the amazing thing too is like how many times we, even like us ourselves, even if we're doing something else in the church, we're like, God, I feel like you're calling me to do more. I don't know what it is. And you sit there and you keep thinking, God, what do you want me to do? And then it's like it's been right in front of your face the entire time. Like, you could open up the Bible to a specific verse or anything, and it's just amazing how God works in the midst of that. And lost my place. So one of the big problems, not only with the fact that, like you said, we all always have something to do. We're kind of putting our blinders on of, this is what I want to do. God, why aren't you telling me what I want you to say? But it causes you to feel separated.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's one thing I really struggled with before, like, I really got involved and I was trying to find my place here. I felt Not that you guys made me feel that way. I just felt separated, and I felt that I was just out of place.
Yeah, we hear that a lot around here, actually. One specific name comes to mind that I won't say. But like, we are a very busy church, very active and engaged in ministry. Let's just say God invites us to do lots of things. And so we're always active. And we hear a lot of times like that. I just feel left out. I feel like I'm not. And so this is my mental picture. Like, we are the body of Christ. So it's like God's body went jogging, but the foot is lame. It has no, and so it's limping along. It's being dragged behind. Like, that is how you feel if you're not joining God in the work he's called us to do. And I'm convinced that that's a us problem, not a him problem. Yeah. Like, he always is inviting us. He always has something for us to do. It's that we're not heeding that invitation, or we're not seeking him first. Right. Yeah. And so we're not joining him in that work.
Well, and I think that's that's a big problem, because with everything at the beginning, like, I just kept telling Lucas, like, I feel like we are missing out. Like, every time we come, that we've missed an entire thing that's happened or that is happening. And it was a real struggle for me for a very long time. And it literally says in the Bible to work in the church. And that's what I really struggled with. Like, I'm probably more of the first thing, like I talked about, of feeling like what I'm doing isn't important, because I'm like, I am normally so involved. I have to have exactly what you want right here in front of me. And then it was like, God's like, I'm preparing you for this moment right here, right now. And you always have a calling somewhere. And the thing is like, realizing that could literally be coming early Sunday mornings and just printing off the bulletins. That could be being a greeter. That could be anything. And none of those things are small, because all of those things are important.
What I've learned I sound so old when I say this.
Because you are.
But in a lifetime of ministry, because literally I've basically spent my life in ministry, some capacity. It truly, genuinely amazes me when I look back at how God was giving me those bulletin printing abilities, and that, I remember the days when I made graphics on Paint, and now most of you don't even know what Paint, you know what Paint is, but not the software on a computer that used to be the standard for, like, I can remember just all of these stepping stones, like, God was preparing me to do what I'm doing now for the kingdom, like, in those little things. And so, like, yeah, at the time, it might seem like a small, minute thing, but really God is using that. It's like Moses, he's called to be the shepherd of Israel. He's called to lead God's people out of Egypt. And so how does God prepare him? By giving him a flock, not even his own. It's his father-in-law's. Like, how humbling can that get, right? And so he gives us his flock for 40 years. He's on the backside of a desert alone, talking to shrubs. Like, Moses is being prepared to lead God's people from the mightiest nation on the planet. And I think that most of us want to be that version of Moses, but we don't want the preparation version of Moses. But you can't get here without first being there.
We want like we said before, like this is exactly what I have for you. This is what I want. Like,
I didn't know God was a soprano.
But the thing is, we all have a purpose.
Yes.
And we all have a completely different purpose. My story isn't your story. My story isn't your story. We all have something different that we're called to do. And once you get involved, that's when you start feeling like you actually have a purpose. Like, you're going to sit there and you're going to think, oh, what is God calling me to do? What does he want me to do? I don't feel like I have any purpose at all. And that's how I felt for a very long time. But once you get involved, you're going to feel like you have a purpose and like you have a family. Not that you didn't have one before, because I knew that I could count on you guys. But it's hard to feel like you really can, in a sense, when you're not there, you're not growing closer to the Lord together, when you're not doing those things together. You can't expect to be emotionally feel like your church is your family if you haven't become a strong part of that family.
I think that's kind of like the feeling that a ball, like any team, really, a ball team would feel. So basketball, baseball, whatever, football. Like, when you're on the team together, you're in the same game. You're under the same pressures. You have the same things right on the line. You know what I mean? Like, you're in this together. And so, like, yeah, if you're sitting on the sidelines, you're not going to feel that closeness, that goal orientation, that pressure from you're not going to feel that together if you are outside watching. And so, yeah, you do have to be, like, involved and plugged in some capacity. But even like that could be printing bulletins is your involvement in the kingdom. You know what I mean? And so it's not really about size. Like, not everyone's the quarterback, not everyone's but it's more about that you're in it with everyone else. Like, it's your neck on the line just as much as their neck on the line. You love it. It's your life just like it is there. Does that make sense? Like, it's being a part of the team. Well,
and it's like you said too, God could have you start printing off bulletins. I mean, that's what I did when I was little.
Yeah.
and slowly build you to the point where I am now. I wouldn't have been ready for anything all those years ago if he hadn't started me off printing bulletins all those years ago.
I'm still printing bulletins.
But God prepares you for every single thing in your life. And that's the thing that we really need to realize too, aside from everything, that not working in the church, it doesn't just affect you. It doesn't just affect those around you. It affects your relationship with Christ and with your church family. And it's just so important, and it's so fulfilling. Like you're going to have a completely different relationship with church. It's not going to just be, I'm going here on Sunday and I'm going to wait and see and hear what the preacher says. And maybe this Sunday, God will have him say something so I know what I'm supposed to do.
It's the difference between a spectator and a participant. Like, that really is it. And there really aren't, like, God never calls spectators. They're called sinners. And I'm just going to shh.
So we need to learn to wait on him, and in the meantime, still be involved and still be a part of the family of God that he's blessed you with. Getting caught up in ourselves can take that blessing away that God has been trying to give us all along. And honestly, that's something I struggle with too, because thinking about yourself is still pride. Even if it is thinking lowly of yourself is still pride. And that can take away the blessing from you, from God, from all of it. And guess what? Maybe this time of waiting is what he's been preparing you for all along, for something even greater than you could have imagined. And looking back at where I was even a year ago now, if I would have been on the Godcast, I would not have been where I needed to be sitting here right now. And I wouldn't have been able to sing in the church or anything. Yes, I sang in the church, but it's completely different now. God was preparing me for something. And if I would have been given those things, I would have not been ready for it at all. And the thing is,
that's kind of what we see with Moses, is like, he gets this vision to deliver God's people. And so he goes and kills one Egyptian. It's like, dude, you got millions. Like, what's that going to do? And again, like, what I get from that is like God saying, you're not ready, son. Like, we got to get you ready. And so he takes him to the backside of a desert. And it's the same way with our lives. Like, we want to join God in what he's doing, but he has to prepare us, or else we're way out of our league. And so, like, don't loathe the waiting process. Like, be intentional and realize he is in the waiting process and he's preparing you, and it's on purpose.
It's like the verse says, like, for such a time as this. He has a perfect time, and sitting on it and worrying about it and fretting about it and thinking, where am I supposed to be, is not what he's calling you to be.
I know this makes sense. I'm probably shouldn't say this out loud because I haven't thought this through yet. But what has that ever stopped me before? God. So technically, God transcends time. So God can't actually ever wait.
It hurts my brain.
It does hurt my brain. And like, I know theologically that's right, but something about like that just doesn't make sense. So if that's the case, then when we serve him, so put a pin in that.
Oh boy.
But then, as we already said, God is always at work. Always. He's never not at work. So that means that technically there's no downtime in being a Christian. Always God's working, and always God's there and ready. So what looks like waiting to us is actually intentional prep process. You know what I mean? There's something going on here. God's doing something and intentionally preparing you for something. And we call it waiting, but actually it's very active. It's very intentional. It's very, sometimes even quickly moving. Like, there's a lot of things going on. It just doesn't feel like it to us. And so what we need to do is to have the heavenly mindset that God is always at work. He's always present. And so he's always doing something. And so my time is just to seek him, see what he's doing, and join him.
Well, it's kind of like school. Like, what would you be able to pass that exam to graduate if you tried it in kindergarten? Like, God, you have to take the test, take the preparation, go through all of school. Can't even spell kindergarten. You have to go through all of that to be able to graduate.
It's not like we talked about that at camp this year but like, we see that so obviously in the world and in everything around us. Like, you can't skip. I remember the cake baking episode you and James did in the skit. Like, it's so obvious that you have to do first things first, steps in order. But when it comes to our spiritual life, like, we just throw it all out the window. We're like, no, God, now. Like, let's just skip straight to the cake. And
we just label it as waiting.
Yeah.
But it's not.
It's not. It's steps.
Preparation.
Absolutely.
Does anybody have anything else?
I've talked too much.
You guys had a really great conversation.
Yes, we did. Thanks for watching, Rachel.
So our quote for this week, I don't have the person's name, but waiting on God requires willingness to bear uncertainty, to carry within oneself the unanswered question, lifting the heart to God about it whenever it intrudes upon one's thoughts. And today's featured content is While I'm Waiting by John Walker.
Was that a theme song one year?
Yeah.
I thought
Or
so.
a camp song. I
Yeah,
don't
it
know if
was
a
something
theme
to do with
song.
camp. I always think of camp when I hear that song.
Yeah.
It's very
Also,
old.
Waller.
Yeah.
That was one of us.
It is Waller. I even typed Walker and
Yeah.
retyped it.
I still think it's Walker, but
Well, we'll see you guys next week. Have a wonderful week. Like, subscribe, share, all of the above. Bye.
get out of here, go.
I can't live this life. I can't go and do. There's no way I can live the life that they have talked about. I could never be good enough. See, the devil thought he had me right where he wanted me, but what he didn't know is that Jesus had me right where he wanted